your analysis, and of course, what you said earlier on, it is very obvious that the initial amount, that was, pushed earlier when it comes to the minimum wage, 200,000 is no longer adequate or realistic. So, in your words, you said it's not in consonance with current reality, if you would understand me. It's not in consonance. So, what exactly is the ideal of fair minimum wage, or I'd like to use the word living wage, that you think that the civil servants out there should, be pushing for right about now, considering the current realities on ground?
Well, the NLC and TUC are putting forward a figure of 400,000. And I will not support that as a minimum wage.
They are right by that figure of 400,000.
That's exactly what I said. They did a survey assessing the cost of living situation in different parts of the country on the basis of what we have seen in the past 10 months, the removal of fuel subsidy, the devaluation of the naira, another liberal economic attacks that have devastated the economy. Inflation is at about 30% right now, and that is the official rate. Dollar, as at yesterday night, has crept up to about 105 1,500 naira, per dollar. That is situation. So it is all of these factors that they brought together to push for that amount. Now, that is a minimum wage. But is it a living wage? It is not. Because a living wage is not based on the quantity of the salary. It is on the value of it.
Now, speaking of value, don't you think that the market woman out there would immediately skyrocket or inflate the cost of our commodities, say food commodities like tomato, once the living wage or the minimum wage has been raised to 400?
Yes,
going by what you just said now,
exactly.
That it's not about the quantum of cash you have.
It is the value
it's about
of
the value that you have.
That's exactly the point. That's exactly why we socialists always admonish the leadership of labor not to limit his struggle to just fighting for an incremental raise in wages, because on the long run, it only brings a little relief to workers. But as you have said, prices of commodities will move in the same direction, and the cycle continues. Of poverty, of inability to afford, a better life continues. What this means, therefore, is that labor, side by side with fighting for a raised minimum wage, labor must also begin to fight, for a recalibration of the economy. I mean, for instance, fight for better food of education and against the current increment of fees, something which will mean that if you are earning 400,000 as a minimum salary and you are not paying so much for education, you have enough for other things. But if you are earning 400,000 and you have to pay 1.5 million as school fees for your children in the public universities, the value of that wage already has been evacuated. So that side by side with fighting for a minimum wage, labor must also fight for better funding of education, better funding of healthcare, provision of decent housing, fight for reversal of fuel price, which is actually the starting point of the economic crisis that Nigeria has been facing over the past 10 months. Because on the basis of the 600 naira per liter fuel, it's only a matter of time before any raise in wage also becomes inadequate. Above all, is that labor must also fight for a reconstitution of the Nigerian economy. Any economy that is run on the basis of profit cannot guarantee a decent life or a living wage for workers. You need a situation whereby the commonwealth of this country can be placed under the democratic ownership, control, and management of the working people, in order to ensure that the huge wealth that this country has is devoted to making life better for all. If you have free education in this country, something which is possible given the wealth that we have, if you have free health care, if you have provision of decent but affordable accommodation for everyone, if you have a public works program, instead of this very fraudulent contract system through which emergency billionaires are being made on a monthly basis, If you have an efficient public work program on the basis of which road infrastructures are being carried out, building of highways and all of that are being done, you are going to have a situation whereby, one, you are going to be creating employment, and at the same time, you are going to be establishing foundations in society that can support a decent life, that can also support, even for those who have minimal private enterprises, for them to survive. The biggest people, the section of the capitalist elite, the manufacturing association in this country, are one of the biggest hits by the economic crisis now. And that itself in turn has produced a crisis for the working people. There's hardly any month that one company or the other is not closing down. I have a friend who does fumigation. And yesterday we were discussing, and he said, Soweto, that even the small companies, including schools and co, that used to ask them to come and fumigate, most of them are closing shop. So that when an industry closes shop, it has a reverberating effect across wide section of the population. And why are they closing shop? It's because the environment is so terrible. We are talking about price of petrol. The price of diesel is already in the roof, so much that for industries, for factories, to produce a single item of commodity has become so expensive that they cannot even expect, to sell it, at the cost of production. These are the issues that is happening. And if labor does not fight for it, the value of any wage that is achieved in this minimum wage will not, be adequate for for a decent life for people. So when we are talking about living wage, it's not the contour.
So
it is the value of it.